Let's talk about Johan Rojas. Now, today's takeaways are presented by Factor. You can use code Phillies50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life with any active subscription at factormeals.com/Phillies50. Today's takeaways, we're talking about Johan Rojas. Yoro, and yes, guys, while we were in spring training, I did make sure to plant the seed with some different Phillies folks of like, listen, we've been talking about the nickname Yoro. Let's help it make it stick. I also got thumbs up.
That was the most important part of the trip.
It was, honestly. Sarcasm. But they liked the nickname. I did get some approval from the nickname. Preston Mattingly even liked it. I mean, if he likes it, we love it. So Preston Mattingly and company, everybody thumbs upped it for the most part. So Yoro was sticking. You guys just make it happen in the chat. It's happening, guys. It's happening. What also we hope is happening is some better at-bats for Johan Rojas. Now, as we know, this spring training has been a big part of the development for Yoro and just being that everyday center fielder. He was asked about it and about how things have been going so far. And he did have a quote going out saying, right now I don't care about the results. Of course, if I had good results, it's great. But right now I'm focusing on the process of everything. I feel like I'm learning a lot of new stuff. I don't feel like the player that I was last year. Once I feel it click, the new things that I'm getting used to, everything else is going to come with it. And the best version of himself is going to follow. And as we know, Yoro has been struggling at the plate. He's definitely trying a lot of new things, which is a big part of that. But when you look statistically, as he's trying to win that everyday center fielder job, batting only a 171 batting average. He's 7 for 41 at bats with 1 double, 2 triples, 4 RBIs, and a 4.83 OPS in the 42 Grapefruit League plate appearances that he's had. He also did go 0 for 3 with a strikeout in Monday's game versus the Yankees in that loss to them. The results doesn't matter. But as we know, Rob Thompson and the Phillies have already mentioned several times that it's, up to Yoro to prove that he can be that everyday center fielder, that also decisions haven't been made. He is improving when talking about him. They said he is improving. But we also know on the other side of it, as was mentioned in chat by Mickey, Christian Pache has been playing fantastic. He's been so consistent. His numbers are complete opposite. And he's been giving great at-bats, hitting home runs, scoring runs, getting RBIs, whatever, just being consistent and giving good at-bats. Yoro is also striking out at a lower rate this spring than last season, 19%. Compared to last season's 25.6%. Of course, it's a much smaller sampler size. But he's been focusing on chasing, doing a better job of chasing less pitches, his control, being able to understand when to swing and being a little bit more patient. A lot of new things that they're implementing for Johan, Jamie. And so far, it hasn't been great, but it is just spring training.
Yeah, Rob talked about it in the interview yesterday on WIP. He said, we've been working on some stuff, and I do think he's close to turning a quarter. He said his lower half isn't yet syncing up with his top half, and they've been working on his front step, and he's not quite there yet. He said on the inverse of that, JT has also been working on that front step, and he's the best JT Rob has seen yet in terms of this early in the season. He really thinks he fixed his swing. He thinks Johan is close to getting the timing down with his lower half, but the reality of the situation is not great. All right. So to be fair, I am a optimistic sports fan. So I always like to give some positive before I give some negative to tell both sides of the story. This was from Todd Zalecki yesterday. Rojas chased an eye-popping 40.4% of his pitches out of the zone last season. That number in the postseason jumped up to 43.5%. So far in spring, he has a chase rate of just 35.1% of pitches outside of the zone this spring. So there's your positive spin. He looks as though he at least has a different mental approach or maybe a better understanding of the strike zone. Yeah. So there's the positive, okay? Now I'm going to give you the negative. Angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. If you combine Johan Rojas's postseason with his at-bats from this spring, and as of yesterday when I was doing some reading, Johan has led the team in at-bats this spring. Pache did get kind of minimized there for like 2 or 3 weeks, but now you're seeing more Pache again. I think we can all read some tea leaves there a little bit. Rob said still no. He didn't say Rojas is on the 40-man to start.
Right.
He did not confirm that. He said, "Oh, we'll see." So here it is. His postseason last year with his at bats this spring, it totaled as of yesterday 84 at bats. He's hitting 119 in those 84 at bats. So clearly working on things, getting better at his chase rate, not yet translating to in the batter's box success. So what does it mean? To be honest with you, I have no idea. If I had to guess, I think there's a 50-50 chance he starts the year in Lehigh Valley. But, as we got to ask Larry Boa on Saturday, and Larry's in that dugout. He's there. Right. He knows these guys. He knows their personalities. He's worried that you would lose Rojas's confidence. And he would go down there and sulk. And the kid feels like he's a major league player. He was a center fielder on an NLCS team. It could be a big blow to the confidence. So, look, what Kyle Schwarber talked about with WIP was that the reason Rob is so good as manager is that he knows every guy personally, individually, goes out of his way to connect with them. So Rob has a much better understanding of what's going on between Johan's ears. And if he feels as though that Boa is right and his confidence could be shot going down, maybe that nudges him up to the opening day roster. But if you're just basing it on results right now, me personally, I would send him down to get confidence. I don't know. And look, as soon as he starts hitting, bring him up. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a month and a half. Yeah. If he starts the season out hot and looks like he fixed that lower half, upper half sinking, then bring him right back up. Like the 40-man roster doesn't really mean anything for opening day, but like the success isn't there yet. So I for one, am worried if he gets 60 at-bats to start the year and he's hitting 119, what does that do to his confidence?
Yeah.
And Christian Pache and him are very similar players. They're not going to have great on bases. They're not going to have great averages. They're both going to give you plus defense. Like, it might be a little safer to start Pache, but then there's the righty thing with him. And so Todd also went on to say that if Rojas isn't the opening day center fielder, he thinks they're going to go with Marsh in center and Witt in left. And then that becomes another thing you have to monitor because Witt, the silver lining of Witt is it gives you so much flexibility, but you also don't want to wear him down because you saw his numbers last year get worse over the year as he wore down. So Witt is kind of best served playing 3 or 4 days a week, not being your everyday left fielder. So these are the discussions they're going to have this week. It's pretty interesting, but Johan isn't having the success yet that should say opening day center fielder.
I know. It's tough to see because obviously this has been, and listen, I think part of it that is the reality is there's so much pressure right now. Johan Rojas is constantly being asked about it. We know that's been the focus. And I wonder how much will he be able to just step out of that and just focus on playing, focus on, just the little things if he starts off, in the minors or if he starts off with, and is the everyday center field. That's the other part of it. Like, I'd like to see him get to a point where he doesn't have to think about this. You cannot play sports overthinking, okay, am I going to strike out this time? Am I going to be able to,
And quick clarification, Tyler just pointed this out to me. He is on the 40-man. I mean the 26-man opening day roster.
Right. But being so focused on all the little things of your game takes away from just being able to play. And I know Kevin Long was even mentioning, it's getting there. It's not all the way there. But, I keep telling these guys, this is the hardest 15% you'll have. There's a lot of good things that Johan is doing. It's just that last part that's probably the hardest, and getting him to do something that seems a little bit unnatural for him. And when you're making these tweaks and trying to improve things and you're constantly being asked about it, yes, that's part of being an athlete. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, I would love to see him be able to just play, just go and, try. He doesn't need to be someone that's hitting 20-plus home runs, but he needs to be someone that can at least give you solid at-bats to keep the inning alive. Whereas we saw down the stretch at times, inning was ending with him. So I'd love for him to get to a basic level of whatever that goal is that they have for him, a basic level of giving you something at bat, bunting, whatever it is, just not striking out, not chasing pitches, And so Johan Rojas is an interesting one because as we've talked about yesterday and we've had many conversations and even asking Larry Boa about it, what will best help his confidence? Success at a lower level or failure at a higher level? Like, that's a tough gamble because you don't know. Everybody's mechanics and mentality is so different, and understanding, listen, we're gonna send you down, but we have faith you're gonna come back up. We want you to go down there, continue working on things. Like, the conversations are so important to let him know, regardless what decision is made, the belief that you have in him.